Just like, this isn't going to happen. But just imagine when like we don't get our visas and then this podcast is literally over.
Shut up.
We're going to change it to like stuck in the
Stuck
city.
in the city. Yeah. Alrighty. So I'm going to say alrighty in the beginning of every episode. I hope you know that.
That's so good.
Welcome to the New to the City podcast.
Episode 1.
Episode 1.
What up? If you're going to say alrighty, then I'm going to sing a little ditty every time. No, wait. Don't stop listening. I promise I won't. We're basically professionals now. We've done this once before.
Yep.
Are you even nervous anymore?
No.
I'm not chugging this drink. Joey, what are we having to drink?
Clink, we're having Moscow Mules. So, update me. So this is, I guess,
every time something has happened, maybe like Canadian Thanksgiving to now, I'm like, don't text Joey because
we have to catch up.
we have to catch up. You have things you want to tell me too, right?
I do.
Are they just visa related or are they
No, they're just like kind
related?
of a life update. And I guess bleeding into like life and us kind of starting our life together.
You and me?
Because I guess we're kind of married now.
Yes, we are.
So tell me what is up with you.
Okay. Oh, I don't even know where.
I guess maybe start me with your quote unquote dating life. That was shady.
Does she even know how?
Okay, let me preface that by saying like DeShane wasn't even sure about where this was going, so I'm not being shady.
I'm going to read you what I wrote in my outline. Dee got a new boyfriend and broke up with him in the same week.
Okay, good. See, I told you. It wasn't shady at all. It was just honesty.
It's honesty. So basically, I have been on like 4 dates probably with this guy, and it was going well. But I knew something that he did not, and that is I am leaving the country.
Oh, yes.
Before the end of the year.
Yes.
So he was like,
it's also just like, I think for you, hard to get emotionally involved when you fully know you are leaving the country.
100%. And like, he didn't know that. So it was a little bit awkward because I was kind of more reserved for good reason.
Right.
But he didn't really know why. And so,
I think we should normalize casual dating.
Me too.
Like casual dating is perfectly fine. Like even just to enjoy the company of somebody else until you don't need to. As long as like both of you are aware of what that is, I think that's perfectly fine. I think if someone's in a completely different emotional state than you are and you don't let somebody know that, that's when it goes wrong.
One of my favorite college professors, she told me the story about how she was dating like 2 men at once, and that's how she like found her husband. And my mom was dating 3 men at once and found her husband.
That's right.
So
I think casual dating needs to be normalized. Like this whole like idea of like you're talking to one person, and if you stray in any way, not even involved in a committed relationship, that it's like some kind of heinous crime is ridiculous. Like casual dating is perfectly fine. To
be fair, I was in a committed relationship and he cheated on me, and that was a heinous crime.
Oh, fully.
But that's only because we were in an open relationship and only one of us knew it.
Aha. See, now that's where you have an issue.
So
communication is key.
100%. I'm not against casually like 2 people dating each other, but also dating other people, as long as everybody knows
everybody is aware. Everybody is aware. I think that's really important. So I think we should normalize casual dating.
100%.
Well, I guess that's kind of like at least a casual place to be in.
Yeah. It's a good, like, I think this is what I'm thinking. We know where I was at.
Yeah.
A year ago? That I really feel bad for. Thank God we had such an amazing cast.
Yeah, true. Shout out to that Vision cast. 100%. Love you all.
Because I was in a fine place. Like,
yeah, no, like on like an everyday, yeah.
But emotionally, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. But yeah, so coming from that, getting into a place where I feel like I can casually date, I think is a very good step.
Huge step forward.
And a really good stepping stone to moving somewhere new and, being able to being open fully to meeting new people.
Yeah. 100%. And I'm very proud of you. Like that's such a good place for you to be in.
Thank you.
Like you just said, like especially moving into a new place. a completely different country where you're able to have so many different opportunities for dating and for potentially finding someone you could be serious with.
Yeah.
And being open to that is really good. And like I said, I think the whole casual dating is a good stepping stone for that as well, because it kind of teaches you to like be open to someone emotionally, but not feel like there needs to be serious commitment. Mm-hmm. You know?
Did I tell you about when I was at the general store in Washington and someone asked me if I had a boyfriend and I said no, and then they asked me if I was a lesbian, because what other possible explanation could there be for me not having a boyfriend?
That's also so Washington.
You know, that's the second time in my life that
You were asked
I've been in New Hampshire and someone has asked me if I have a boyfriend and I say no, and they say, well, you're a lesbian.
I sat down at this general store and I could feel everybody just staring at me.
Oh my God. So many people came up to me.
That's so crazy.
They thought that you were my boyfriend.
I am.
That's what I said.
So, what about it? So what else? Tell me what else. What other update do you have? You had Canadian Thanksgiving.
I had Canadian Thanksgiving.
That must have been nice. And Janine's birthday. So by the way, Janine, Shane's mother, is absolutely one of the coolest people that I know.
She is a J10.
A J10.
Not a J9.
Shut up. Oh my God, that's so good.
We had Canadian Thanksgiving. There's a pandemic going on. So my family and I sat down, and it was my father's idea to not invite as many people this year because obviously not
Pandemic.
safe. And then he proceeded to invite everyone.
Lovely.
So my mom and I were like putting out masks everywhere, like the disposable ones and hand sanitizing stations. And it turned into a really nice group of people.
Was it your whole family?
It wasn't my whole family. It's mostly Canadian Thanksgiving is mostly Americans who just use it as like an excuse to drink.
To eat. That's where my mind goes. My mind goes to eating.
Oh, no, drinks. But we spent the whole time outside, and, you know, trying as much as possible to stay away from people. Yep. So we were freaked out about it in the beginning, but it turned out to be fine. It was a really good day.
Did you end up playing all your family competitive games?
We played, oh my God, we played Jenga.
Yeah, you played giant Jenga.
100%. And then we finished the night off with
31
and Jungle Speed. I taught all my friends Jungle Speed.
Jungle Speed absolutely is the best game.
It's so good. It is my favorite game. It is basically, if you've never heard of it, it's like a card game where you match shapes.
Yeah, and like also kind of think of spoons.
Spoons.
Like it's not the same game whatsoever, but like the speed of like taking a spoon is the same as Jungle Speed. Like you just have to like constantly be aware.
I've never played spoons.
Oh, okay. So it's like a game where it's a card game where like it's kind of like what's the game that they play music and when it stops you have to sit in a chair?
Musical chairs.
It's kind of like musical chairs where there's like if there's 8 players, there's 7 spoons. And everybody has 4 cards in their hand, and you go around, and the first person to have 4 of the same card in their hand has to grab a spoon. And as soon as somebody grabs a spoon, the other 7 players have to compete to grab the spoon, no matter if you have 4 cards or not.
Oh.
So like sometimes you can catch someone like the first person taking a spoon, and sometimes you're not even aware, so the game can keep going while someone has already taken a spoon. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's the same aggression.
Yes.
So
it's the same like intensity of making sure you're aware of grabbing the totem.
But yeah, it was good.
Good.
Yeah, life is good. Life is strange, but you know.
I mean,
as
Corona.
per. Yeah.
So
what about you?
So remember I was talking about the guy who reached out to me about designing things for me.
Yes.
I met up with him. Yeah. So, for our listeners who aren't aware of our lives before this, I am a drag queen by the name of Betty Bang. Go follow me, the Betty Bang. And someone that I went to college with reached out to me probably about a month or a month and a half ago, saying that he would love to work with me in order to design things. He wants to become more of a drag designer or like creating more kind of elaborate costumes. And he reached out to me saying that he would love to work with me. And I about shat my pants because let me tell you, like working towards a goal and being successful in drag, that was such a like crazy stepping stone for someone to reach out to me who appreciates what I do in my work. Saying I would love to work with you was crazy. So we met up and we talked and we caught up and we got into designing something. And I have such like this deep appreciation for like vintage 1940s, 1950s women, like that, like, I guess, yes, of course, there was misogyny and like women didn't have as strong of a voice as they do today. But the aesthetic, and also like kind of like in the 1940s, women stepping up and taking over factories, like that's such an empowering thing for women to do and finally step up and do. So our first design together was a 1940s vintage suit. After we took our measurements, that he's going to draw something up. So I'm just kind of waiting for him to get back to me and sending me his designs and what we were going to do together.
Do you know like the like material or like the vibe?
No idea. So he said, so I kind of like gave him like, I have kind of this like obsession with monochromatic looks. So like if I do blue eyeshadow and I do blue hair and I do like a blue look, like I love monochromatic. And he kind of is aware of that now. And I love like patterns, like really bold, strong patterns. And so he said that he's going to try finding a balance between what he likes and what I like. And we'll kind of come together. So it's really honestly so super exciting. So I'm really excited about that.
Anytime you get to collaborate with someone who has like the same kind of, like they're on the same wavelength as you.
Totally.
Oh, that's so magical.
And it was very much like we sat down and it was like, this is what I like. He was like, this is what I like. And we just kind of like met in the middle and it felt so natural and so right. And so I'm really excited for him to get back about it. He said that he was going to draw something up and so that we would work together and come up with something. Ooh. So kind of let's get into the topic of today, right?
Yeah.
So, gosh, in the process of moving to London, we have to get our visas, don't we?
Yes, we do.
It's not just let's fly over there and live there.
I wish it was.
God, I know, right?
I'd be there right now.
I know. God, we'd all be there.
So before you were trying to or made the decision to live in London,
yes,
what was life like for you?
So I think kind of I always knew that I wanted to be in London. Mm-hmm. Ever since I was little, like Europe was the dream. And I knew like my grandfather was, he used to own a cheese business with my mother. Yeah. He used to go to France and he used to go all around France picking cheeses that he would sell in the store that they had. And so there was always kind of this notion of like, there's definitely more out there.
And it's like a possibility.
And it's absolutely a possibility.
Right.
So I kind of always knew that like I was destined to be in Europe or at least somewhere that wasn't the United States. Mm-hmm. And I always knew that like I was gonna, I mean, at the time I thought I was straight. That's such a joke. But I always knew that I was gonna marry someone that was gonna be European. And I always was so interested in seeing what Europe is like and what very old culture and how people live in a completely different place. And so when I started working on cruise ships and being introduced to all of these different cultures and all these different people, I got even more of an adoration and a love for different cultures. It just so happened that I stumbled across my now husband, who was originally from a place in the UK called Leeds, 2 hours north of London. And
you were like, not close enough, throw it back.
Yeah.
Get a new one.
Yeah, throw him overboard. I'll get a new one. And we always make a lot of jokes about how I only married him for his passport, which I did. Kidding. I truly was like, I cannot believe that this is what my life has led me to. And it was so unbelievable because I loved this man so much, while also just by happenstance also happened to be British.
Like exactly where you wanted to be.
Exactly. And we got off of the Vision, our contract together. Mm-hmm. And we went to London. And the minute I stepped foot off of the plane and I stepped into London, I absolutely fell in love.
She's home.
She's home.
Yeah, I was born in Canada. I was born in a different country. And then I moved when I was 13, which is such a weird age to move to a different country. Granted, are Canada and the United States similar? I know the Canadians are going to get mad at me for saying this, but like, yeah, in terms of like day-to-day lifestyle.
Right, in everyday lifestyle.
It's quite similar.
Especially as a 13-year-old girl.
Especially as a 13-year-old. So I've never...
Although I couldn't imagine moving at 13. I already have enough fucking hormones going in as it already. Like, I could not imagine having to completely switch up my lifestyle.
It's weird. And the weirdest thing about it is so many people that I went to high school with, it was the same kids who had known each other, who had gone to school together since they were 4 or 5. I don't know what fucking age kids go to school, but everybody grew up together.
I feel like it's that typical like high school trope. Mean Girls. I feel like it's Mean Girls. Where it's like,
what do you mean?
Katie Herring coming in from Africa.
Okay, yeah. Not to that extent.
Of course not. But like that whole deal of like,
everybody's so solid in
who they are.
They've lived in the same house,
right,
done the same shit for 13 years. And
you're a redhead, so it matches.
I wasn't then.
Perfectly. Yeah, that's true.
But
I imagine, like, funny thing is, like, I imagine you as a 13-year-old as you as a 29-year-old.
Oh, not the same.
In a 13-year-old's body.
Hey. No, I feel bad for that 13-year-old girl. But yeah, so being uncomfortable isn't new for me because it started happening at such a young age. And then I moved to Philly where I knew 0 people and then lived there for 5 years where I turned not knowing anybody into another home, you know?
Right.
And then moving on to ships. So for me, I've always been kind of comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think the only reason for that is because my parents kind of uprooted me at such a young age, which I'm so thankful for. I knew that being in New Hampshire was my parents' choice. It wasn't my choice. I knew from arriving there at 13 that this isn't the place that I necessarily see myself living long term. But the thing is, I didn't know where I wanted to live long term. So ships, especially for me, was such a great experience because I could experience so many different cities around the world and kind of figure out what was a good fit for me.
Yeah, put your feelers out there and say, ooh, I like this.
100%. And you know, like when I went to London, I actually spent like a significant amount of time in London, was last year. And I went because I had broken up with my boyfriend and we were supposed to go together. And I said, fuck you. I'm still going. Harry Potter world fucking awaits.
Oh my God, I remember you posting those pictures and I was so happy for you because I knew that like...
The vengeance.
Yeah.
So...
You're welcome.
I just remember like I went there kind of in spite of my circumstances, but... spending
it's like turning definitely like a negative into such a positive.
Yeah, and it was the exact same thing that happened with you. Like I landed and I was like, holy shit, this is it. Yeah. And it's like I love Philly because it has kind of the neighborhoods of the boroughs and like you can go into a different section of the city and feel like you're in a completely different place.
There's like some quote, and Jacob knows it way better than I do, but like it's basically like when you're done seeing the world, you haven't been to London. Something along that lines of like, basically like once you're done seeing the whole world, London has a whole different world to completely explore. And that's why, you know, like the Oyster card is the London's card for tube travel.
Yeah.
It's because it comes from like the world is your oyster. And that's why they call it an Oyster card. How fucking cute is that? Good job for you, London.
Good job, London.
You go, London.
Go, London. So, Joey, what kind of visa?
So, for me, because I am married, so I'm going for my spousal visa. Now, that's where it gets a little complicated
I was
already.
Gonna say, they like hate immigrants.
They basically do. Brexit.
Doesn't everyone?
God, that's... So, it gets a little complicated because Jacob was working on ships. So basically... all the money that he made in his past 3 years of being on ships doesn't count towards me getting my visa.
Because he needs to be able to support the both of you.
Correct. That's kind of where their stance lies is he has to prove that he's able to take care of both of us, which is kind of ridiculous because I'm just as fit to work as he is.
But like legally, are you fit to work?
No.
Okay.
I can't work there. But also, like, any of the money that I've made in the previous year doesn't count either. It has to be in the UK.
Interesting.
So because he hasn't worked in the UK, the amount of money he's earned over the past quote-unquote year is $0. So...
That's not enough.
No.
I'm not a scientist, but that's not enough.
No, that is not enough. So... And we don't have enough in our savings together to just apply for it. So what we kind of have to do is we kind of have to combine the both of them. So he's had to get a job. And basically he has to prove that over the 6 months that he makes enough money combined with our savings that he can support us. So he's been working for the past 6 months. well, 5 months.
Well,
I
you've
can
been
apply in December,
lounging.
and I've basically been doing nothing. So that's good. Way to feel like a typical
Housewife.
50s housewife. Yeah, literally.
So on brand.
Because it's so on brand, right? I've literally been going food shopping and cooking, and that's what I do. And I clean. It's like it is so on brand for a typical 1950s housewife.
So I did not realize how great it was to be Canadian, like to be a dual citizen, until I started kind of working in the international travel realm. My first contract, my friend Ross, he's Canadian, and he was like, you have 2 passports. That's fucking amazing, because then that means that I can get paid in rehearsals and like get paid under being an American citizen. It just means that there's a lot of benefits for me, especially because of the job that I had in order to get paid and things like that. But now applying for the visa, oh my gosh, even
Come on, tier 5.
Even just like listening to you talk about all this shit
I know.
makes me so thankful, because I don't need a boyfriend.
Fully.
I don't need a man to make things happen. So basically, because I am a Canadian citizen, I can use my Canadian passport to apply for my Tier 5 Youth Mobility Visa, which is basically a visa that just exists between, I think it's the Commonwealth countries in general, that are like, hey, you're
allowed.
You're under 31. Yeah. You should go and experience life in a different country for 2 years.
And that gives you, so basically that 2-year visa, it's 2 years, correct? Mm-hmm. It gives you time to basically kind of work out what you need in order to switch to a different visa, correct?
For me, yeah. I don't think it's used, I don't think it's meant to be used as a stepping stone kind of visa, but for me,
that's what you're using it as.
That's what I'm using it as, yeah. So all I need to get my visa is a valid Canadian passport, which we are working on because I let mine expire, which I'm so mad I did.
I'm sure you are.
But also I got mine when I was 13, so like I was a shitty little kid.
Yeah,
what did I know?
Yeah.
So I'm getting my passport renewed, which I got an email on Monday saying that my passport should be mailed to me the week of November 4th.
Oh my gosh.
Which, if it takes 2 weeks to get back to me, like it took 2 weeks to be mailed to them, that puts me at the middle of November, which gives me a full month to get
work
my
everything out.
visa.
Yeah.
And then I can take the flight that I already booked that I wasn't supposed to, but I did because I was
so
excited.
exciting. Which is so exciting. I just hope that I can be on the same flight with you.
Yeah, me too.
Gosh.
But besides that, all I need is a valid Canadian passport, and then I have to pay for the health insurance.
The like NHS coverage.
Yeah, the NHS. Thank you. And I have to prove that I have like $2,500 in the bank, or 2,500 pounds, I guess. And I have to apply for the visa before the day I turn 31. And those are like the 3 things that I need to do.
Gosh, that's so easy.
In order to be qualified.
I'm so jealous of you.
And like the only way I won't get the visa is if they've already let in 2,500 people from Canada.
Which obviously coronavirus has completely affected.
I'm hoping
I would hope, not that I would hope so, but I would think so.
I would think so, that like people are
there would definitely be a
different
difference.
country.
Yeah, there would definitely be a difference.
And the countries that are involved in this program are kind of random. It's like Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Monaco, I want to say. I really should have looked this up before I started talking about it, because I really actually don't know. And the whole point of the visa is to encourage young people to go and travel and experience life.
So almost expected. Like, I feel like that should be expected of everybody. Like, everyone should be able to experience different culture.
Listen, I could talk about this for another 45 minutes. I think everybody should leave the place that, and maybe it's because of how I was brought up, but like, you should leave wherever you were born.
Well, yeah, it gives you just a completely different perspective. The amount of people that I've met like on ships who for the first time they've traveled away from the place that they grew up in and have completely changed as human beings.
And if you decide to go back after that, then like, good for you. At least you know that where you live is a choice,
right? Not
circumstance,
right? Of course. Which we've already kind of touched upon, haven't we?
Well, so let me ask you this. You have lived in London at the time of coronavirus.
I have. So basically what ended up happening is we decided on me going over to London while we were renting a temporary place, and that we would end up deciding on where we were going to live together together when I was over in the UK. So I booked a flight in May, which was kind of like the height of coronavirus. And luckily, because I was married and I have my marriage certificate, I was able to travel to the UK and be able to be with Jacob.
But how is living in London during the coronavirus?
Oh, I mean,
especially like living in London and then coming back to the United States. Like,
yeah,
what are the differences?
To be honest, like, I'd like to say that there was a huge difference, but to be honest, there really wasn't.
Really?
Which is surprising to me. Actually, and I think it's because I'm in Massachusetts, and Massachusetts is like definitely taking it a lot more seriously than I think a lot of the rest of the United States. Because Massachusetts was kind of like the last people to open up things and like have still been quite wary. Like, they required masks. I went to London and they weren't requiring masks, and I was like,
I've seen like some people's Instagram stories and they're like in clubs and shit and no one's wearing a mask, and it's shocking to me.
I was shocked. I was walking down the street with Jacob like the first few days I was there, and I was like, wait, so your shops aren't requiring face masks? And he was like, no, of course not. And I was like, what do you mean, of course not?
But they also had a lot of lockdowns.
But then they changed it.
Oh.
So they did change it to requiring masks on the tube, where they had policemen standing outside of stations making sure you wore masks. So I feel like they were kind of behind, which surprised me quite a bit.
Yeah, that's not the vibe that I was getting.
No, totally not. I was very shocked. And I was very surprised by how the restrictions weren't actually as serious as they were in Massachusetts in the States. Now, the States itself, I'm sure London looks like it's completely on lockdown, but it's not.
Right.
So that was very shocking to me.
Interesting.
That was very shocking to me.
I know the difference between like, I was in rehearsals and then went onto the ship kind of in the beginning. I signed on at the end of January, so it was like right at the
when
cusp.
Like things were getting weird.
Little did we know. And then obviously St. Patrick's Day was our last day with guests on or some shit like that. And then everything just went completely sideways and downhill because obviously the CDC decided that people on cruise ships had coronavirus.
No matter
even
what.
though no one had any symptoms.
No.
Everyone had coronavirus.
Yep.
And the public needed to be protected from us when, in fact, we were afraid of the rest of the world.
God, I felt so bad because literally cruise ships were basically stuck at sea. I mean,
Not
how long
basically.
were you stuck at sea?
Personally, I was stuck at sea for 60 days.
Jeez.
And I was in isolation in my cabin for 24 of those days.
Could you imagine? I mean,
I could.
You could imagine because you were out there. But like, I wasn't. And I remember like messaging you and messaging Caitlin and just being like, you guys are just stuck at sea.
Just literally stuck.
No one is letting you in.
No one's letting us out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even when we were allowed finally out of our cabins, you had to have your mask on from the second you stepped out of your cabin.
Yep.
We had staggered meal times.
No, I mean, ships definitely took coronavirus more seriously than
that's what I'm saying.
Countries.
Is the strictness with which we were adhering to like our lives was so intense, and it came out of literally nowhere because we weren't exposed really, you know, like not
absolutely.
as much as the rest of the world was being. It wasn't spreading as fast as the rest of the world was. And so we were all terrified I don't want to speak for everybody, but like if our lives didn't change at all, like if we just kicked the guests off and it was only crew members, our lives wouldn't have changed at all.
Right.
But because of the CDC, we got absolutely cracked down on, and it was in reaction to what the rest of the world was experiencing, but we weren't experiencing that.
Yeah, totally.
So it seemed like such an overreaction because we weren't experiencing what everybody else was. So coming home to New Hampshire, I was completely terrified. I wasn't allowed to interact with people.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to be in the same, like, they had to go in on the way home, and like if I had to go to the bathroom and like clear everybody out so that I wouldn't interact with anybody because I was the threat, even though I
had been quarantined for at least 30 days.
For 60
For
days
60 days
on a ship without getting off. So the juxtaposition of those two things was just absolutely insane. And then I get to New Hampshire. Masks are like obviously required when you go into like businesses and stuff.
Right.
But for the most part, I mean, people don't
abide by that.
Or like they don't take it as strictly as what I especially was used to.
And also expecting.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because of
what happened on ships.
Overreaction that happened on ships. Yeah. So that was wild. And then it's definitely made me, because I've heard obviously from our friends about the lockdowns and stuff that have been happening in London, but then I've also been seeing
they're back to like level 2, which means like basically you can't interact with anyone outside of your household. They've like completely shut back down, which if your numbers are spiking, that's what you should be doing.
Yes,
that's what you should be doing. And like for some reason the states are not doing that.
So what's the conclusion? Everyone's fucked?
Yeah, pretty much. I'd say so.
Cool. Tight.
Yeah, I would say pretty much for the most part, we're all in a shit show right now.
And that's the thing as well. Like it's easy to pass judgment in retrospect.
Right.
When it's unprecedented, like everybody's just doing the best that they can.
Trying to fucking survive.
Yeah. And doing it in the best way that they think.
I definitely think that like us starting a new life in this whole brand new era is brave to say the least. I think it's exciting. I'm excited for you to get your Canadian passport. That's like so exciting.
That's going to be such a big step. It just makes me so sad that like if I actually had renewed my Canadian passport when I was supposed to, back when I was like 23, this wouldn't be an issue. And now I'm kind of like not running against the clock, but like it's a factor.
Yeah.
I can't wait until we both get our visas.
Oh my God, I know.
And it's not just like, this isn't going to happen, but just imagine when like we don't get our visas and then this podcast is literally over.
Shut up.
We're going to change it to like stuck in the
city. Yeah.
So if you guys like this episode, please give us a 5-star rating. Tell your friends, subscribe so that you don't miss any new episodes coming out. Make sure you follow us on our social media, Instagram at New to the City Podcast. That's CiTea. What are we on Twitter?
On Twitter, we are just New to the City. Once again, City, CiTea.
We have a Facebook page, which is just New to the City Podcast.
That is correct.
Also, if you have any suggestions or feedback for future episodes,
pitch a girl up
at New to the City Podcast at gmail.com. That's CiTea.
Alrighty.
See you next
time. Signing off.
Bye.
Bye.